Right. Very early this morning, we had a major rain event in the town of Lodi. Approximately 5 inches of rain fell in a very short period of time, which caused some major flooding as the water tries to get down to the lakes. Approximately 200 parcels were affected by this major flooding. We started a major operation of evacuating and rescue of all the occupants. We have a lot of seasonal occupants. We have a lot of renting properties, so I can't give you the exact number of how many houses there were. We just know how many parcels. Voluntary effort with the local fire departments, state fire, state police, our local police, NCON police, major disciplinary activation of resources. Probably about 65 firefighters, roughly 50 law enforcement agencies, and then plus we had state fire along with that. Right now, our evacuation efforts have been conducted. We're doing secondary door-to-door searches just to make sure everybody's okay who's staying behind. Throughout the night, there will be approximately 149 people without power, which is down from around 800 and some people earlier today. We rescued, this is about rescue, but we evacuated probably 65 people through boat traffic. People got out on their docks. We were able to pick them up on a boat, take them to a state park, and bring them to a shelter. That shelter housed those people until they could be picked up. We're down to 4 people who are going to be spending the night. Everybody else was able to find family to stay with, and we're able to leave the shelter. So we're very happy that we're down to that number. No injuries on the rescuer side, very minimal injuries on the resident side, and very happy to report no fatalities. So we're very happy on that account. And that's basically the rundown of what happened. And now I'll get it over to the Major, and he can go from there.
Well, there was some challenges to start, and probably the challenges were that we had a major debris field. We're talking trees, lots of trees that were blocking the roadway, which made it difficult for us to get in and to get the people out. Now, for the most part, the folks were safe in their residences, but they obviously wanted to get out, and that's what prevented us. The water was relatively high, so we wanted to get through it, and the only way to really get through it was to walk through it. And then, as you heard, as the incident commander stated, a lot of people did go out to the docks, and they were rescued through boat traffic. And so it was a major event. We are at the point now where the excavators have ridded a lot of the debris, and we are able to get in, and we are able to traverse with higher axle type vehicles, and even to more minimal extent, 4-wheel drives. Not recommending those right now, but they can get through. And we do have UTVs on site too. We have a number of personnel that are out there, and they're going to every single residence, knocking on every single door to ensure their safety. There is no mandatory evacuation, but we are encouraging them to go somewhere safe because they're not going to have power. And so that's the efforts. We're going to reconvene again tomorrow in the morning and continue the operations, but essentially it's more of recovery at this point. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We had a number of assets deployed, a lot of boats from a lot of different agencies, an excellent multi-agency response, well coordinated.
Where was the worst of it? Where were most of these people evacuated from?
Right from the Lodi Point Park area, just south of there, adjoining the park.
So it's homes, camping, what's over there?
There's a trailer park there, and camps, and some permanent residents.
About how many days do you think it's going to take to clean up all this debris and everything else?
It's going to take quite a few. NYSEG's expecting to have most of the power restored by tomorrow, but as far as the cleanup, it's going to be a major effort.
We heard a lot of people say this was flooding like they have never seen. Can you compare this to anything?
I've lived here all my life, and this is the worst I've seen in this area.
Were you guys prepared in any way for this? Did you expect it to be this bad?
As far as prepared, we always have training to be prepared for stuff like this, but I wasn't expecting to be woke up at 5 o'clock this morning to come here and do this, no.
Are you working with the Red Cross at all?
Yes, the Red Cross has been working with our shelters, and they're going to house the 4 people overnight.
I'm sure it's preliminary at this point, and you guys are obviously still dealing with people, but any estimate in terms of actual property damage, value, anything like that?
Codes and the health department will be trying to ascertain that tomorrow, most likely.
We did have some trailers that got washed down into the lake. But everybody was out, and there was no issues. Everybody was safe. So there is some damage. There were some houses that were greatly affected, trailers that were affected, and in fact knocked down.
A lot of folks said because they had never experienced a flooding evacuation like this, it was a very nerve-wracking experience, obviously. What were some of the challenges of dealing with unprecedented flooding for your crews?
The main challenge, and I think the IC would agree, is that trying to get to them, because you had a debris field that was huge. You're really talking about trees that were across the way where you would normally be able to traverse, and to get rescue vehicles in there. Well, that presents an immediate challenge. Now, we had enough eyes on the site. We had a drone that was deployed that was able to get a bird's eye view, and the 911 phone calls indicated that the folks were stuck, but weren't at a point that they were in danger. And so they just wanted to get out. And so that was the biggest challenge, to answer your question succinctly, is the road debris. And so when we were able to get the excavators there to remove that, then we were able to have more effective operations. But that's when we also decided that the waterways would be another great way to evacuate them, and that happened. I think somewhere around 60 or so got, if I recall correctly, were rescued via the waterways, and we have all the names, and we've been able to cross-check.
I was going to ask, is the water approach, did you come up with that idea after you realized the roadways, the typical ways, were just impossible?
Yeah, it didn't take too long to realize that the only way you're going to get them, and even that presented challenges because there was a lot of debris in the water. So traversing that also presented challenges. But we have experts out there, and we have a variety of boats. There was, all kinds of boats. So we had a whaler, we had a state police whaler out there. You have Zodiac boats, which really can operate just a minimal amount of water, and they can get in and out, pretty quickly.
Did you see any members of the neighborhood helping each other out, especially out there on the water?
I couldn't speak to that because I wasn't boots on the ground out there.
Will there be any federal resources helping out Lodi at all?
We're right now still ascertaining the damage amounts here. I don't know if there'll be federal resources here, but the state is here, prepared to help and support in any way we can.
If somebody is homeless right now, they're just getting their, life organized after a crazy day, what do you suggest they do first in terms of getting help, getting financial help, getting support from the state?
Well, right now we have the shelter set up, as was said earlier. They'll be operational through tomorrow, at least for the next 24 hours. We're trying to ascertain what their needs are, and we'll be linking them up with the proper services or whatever they just need.
But if somebody's out of that shelter, we heard most people are, if they're sitting at home with their relatives tonight, what's their first step in getting their life back together if they've lost everything?
There will be an opportunity for them to apply for help, and we'll be setting up some kind of, we're just moving into the recovery code mode now, and probably by tomorrow something will be set up, and we'll be reaching out to them, making those things available to them.
Where is that shelter? Is it 24 hours?
Right now the shelter is at the Ovid Federation Church.
Pastor said they can keep that going for up to a month.
Yeah, it's on Brown Street there, at the foot of Brown, or across the street there. So that's there. That's where the shelter is right now. That's the only one that's operational right now. But as was said, there's only 4 persons, I believe, still at that shelter. So that's a blessing. There's not a lot of persons there. We do have their names and their contact information, and we will be reaching out to them personally to make sure that they're okay.
Jeff, you said you can't give a number of people that you help, but you said you could give a number of parcels.
It's about 200 parcels. We're going by tax map information. There's 200 parcels in that area.
For people going home, their homes have taken significant damage, and maybe they think they can go in and they're safe. What do they need to watch for? What is something to be wary of?
First of all, the power is out in the affected area. Some of the homes have been compromised structurally, so it's there's many dangers there that would be something to watch out for. Right now, we're advising persons to stay out of the area. As was said, there's not a mandatory evacuation, but it would be very helpful if persons stayed out of the immediate area for the foreseeable future, so we can get in there and take stock of what's going on there.
You mentioned some of the homes have been compromised. Can you estimate about how many homes have been damaged down there?
That information we don't have
Yeah,
yet.
we don't have that.
The Coast and Health Department will get on that.
And what's their process like? They'll go door to door and assess how
Pretty
bad.
much in that area, yes.
The one thing I'd like to get out to you folks, and you can help us with this, is the sheriff did institute a curfew tonight. It's at 7:30 p.m. in the affected area, and so there'll be no street or no road traffic and no foot traffic. And that is just for common sense reasons. You don't have any electricity, and you may see a boulder in the daylight, but you won't see it at night. And so we will have a law enforcement presence overnight to encourage people to get into a safe residence. So I did want to pass that along.
Can you define the affected area?
It's it's going to be Lodi Point Road, Shaw Road, Porter Covert Road, and Lower Lake Road are the roads that we are specifically going to be targeting for no foot traffic and no road traffic.
Is the state of emergency still in effect?
I don't. As
far as I know,
I think that
yes,
it
it
is.
is.
And that's for the towns of Lodi and Ovid.
Yes. I think Interlaken's into that too.
Yep. Okay.
I spoke to some folks at the Ovid Church, and they obviously have never been through this before, and their concern was when they started making calls around 5:40 this morning to 911, it took a few hours that rescue crews did get out to them. Being this first experience, nobody knows what to do. Can you speak to viewers at home that are just not sure how emergency response works, the timeliness of this?
Well, I mean, when you call 911, emergency responders respond as quickly as possible. Obviously, this is an event that overwhelmed the system, overwhelmed the community. That's what brought in all of the state help, all of the other mutual aid from surrounding communities. So I'm sure the response was as timely as it could be under the circumstances. Again, you had a bunch of trees down, a bunch of other things that made the roads impassable, that made it dangerous for the responders too. I'm sure that the responders got there as soon as they could to try to help those persons who were calling for help.
Bigger than the specific area, the rest of the towns. Any idea on the count of roads that have been damaged?
Some of the state roads were impassable. I think Route 89 is still closed in the spot, but everything else seems to be relatively back to normal. We did have some damage over on Sheldrake Point, but not as much as there was here.
And all things considered, we actually did get that debris moved fairly quickly. You know, no event, every event's different. I mean, to speak to your question, every event's different, so there's no textbook response. It all depends on the event. You go there, you assess, you make a determination of what you need, you put your heads together, you get the ICS system working, and then and you take it from that point. We do that much better today than we did at least 28 years ago when I started on the job. For the residents affected, it can seem like a really long time, but looking at it globally, it was a fairly quick response considering the multi-agencies that responded and coordinated together.
But the agency responding here was Lodi Fire Department. They were actually there while the event was still taking place. Their trucks actually got stranded in that area. They couldn't get out. So the event was still taking place and they were there.
That's a good point.
So as more resources came, developed the command center to help them help the residents. So all that takes a little bit of time.